Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome, everybody, to the Chris Salcedo Show here on Newsmax TV. Most of you didn't watch Joe Biden's speech last night. Let me summarize it for you. It was backward and boring, fake and fatuous, radical and racist. The only bright spot in Biden's long and drawn-out whisper fest was this.
We're going to reward work, not just wealth.
That was the only ray of sunshine. A cell phone going off, singing a little happy tune there in the background. It was a welcome departure from Biden's gloom and doom tax hike to socialism presentation. The speech was filled with unrealistic promises and false choices.
This is all about a simple premise. Health care should be a right, not a privilege in America.
Health care is neither a right or a privilege. Health care is a service, just like any other service in the United States. What would you say to a person who said they think veterinary medicine is a right, not a privilege? What would you say to a person who said lawn care is a right, not a privilege? You'd laugh at them, right? And rightly so. What Biden is saying is that you deserve health care services paid for by somebody else. If health care is a right, Americans can't be denied it, right? So if you support such a silly notion, you would make medical doctors the property of the state because everyone has a right to their services. This will lead to doctor shortages. Then the government will snatch the power to force people to become doctors because, as you know, everyone has a right to their services paid for by somebody else. That totalitarianism should frighten all of us. Biden's push for communist care culminated in his becoming the latest politician to claim that in your surrender of your rights and money, the government can cure cancer.
I know of nothing that is more bipartisan. So let's end cancer as we know it. It's within our power. It's within our power to do it.
It's within our power. Just buy into socialism, we can cure cancer. What a joke. If socialism or communism cured cancer, China would have cured it a long time ago. Instead, all communist China's government does is spread disease. My friends, government can't run the post office or Amtrak efficiently. It can't stop illegal aliens and drugs pouring over that border. But we're to believe these nitwits can cure cancer? Right. But all of the stupid and vacuous things that Biden said, this one the most takes the cake.
No one nation can deal with all the crises of our time, from terrorism to nuclear proliferation, mass migration, cybersecurity, climate change, as well as what we're experiencing now, pandemics. There's no wall high enough to keep any virus out.
Oh, man, isn't that clever? You know, the only people who nodded in agreement with that tripe was the biased press. Biden tried to excuse his illegal immigration crises, where he's bringing in new cases of China virus to the United States every single day, by saying no wall can keep out a virus. Is he or whoever wrote that line for him, are they that dumb? Please tell me that nobody in this audience thinks the China virus just floats across the border on its own. No, it requires a human host to be transported and transmitted. Just ask Xi Jinping, he'll tell you. Even His Eminence Dr. Fauci was forced to admit that allowing uncontrolled immigration into any country during a pandemic spreads disease. Biden lied. Controlling immigration, i.e. a wall, does stop the spread of viruses. Hey, Joe, let me dispense some wisdom from one of my radio listeners today. If walls can't stop a virus, then being forced to stay at home or masks can't stop a virus either. So now you have an idea of how dark, dumb, and dangerous Biden's speech was. I'm happy to report that Biden the boob was outshined by the great Senator Tim Scott, who gave the GOP response. His speech was so eloquent, so powerful, so inspirational that the left wing began to attack him immediately. Now, how many of you wondered why only liberals seem to claim that there's systemic racism in the United States? Well, now we know why. The American left, the home of systemic racism in America. That's our discovery in tonight's preamble. Senator Scott, with a profound knowledge that America's racist past rests in the Democrat Party, identified areas in the left wing in America that are fostering racism today. Some of the targets: the government-run schools and the cancerous cancel culture.
100 years ago, kids in classrooms were taught the color of their skin was their most important characteristic. And if they looked a certain way, they were inferior. Today, kids are being taught that the color of their skin defines them again. And if they look a certain way, they're an oppressor. From colleges to corporations to our culture, people are making money and gaining power by pretending we haven't made any progress at all, by doubling down on the divisions we've worked so hard to heal.
From anti-American Airlines, Delta, to Coke, to Major League Baseball, Scott identified those who are pushing a culture of racism against whites. He outed government education, a corrupt institution that is using your tax dollars to institute a curriculum that teaches white kids to be ashamed of their heritage and teaches black and brown kids hate. Systemic racism exists in the government-run schools. Racism against whites. It's because of CRT and the China virus, the senator concluded this.
Locking vulnerable kids out of the classroom is locking adults out of their future. Our public schools should have reopened months ago. Other countries did. Private and religious schools did. Science has shown for months that schools are safe. But too often, powerful grown-ups set science aside, and kids like me were left behind. The clearest case I've seen for school choice in our lifetimes, because we know that education is the closest thing to magic in America.
You're darned right. Conservatives like Tim Scott, seeing the damage and incompetence of Gov Ed, are eager to restore power in our children's education to where it belongs, the hands of the parents. For this, Senator Scott was attacked on Twitter. The ultra-left-wing anti-American social media site allowed a racial slur, quote, Uncle Tim, on their platform. Apparently, open racism toward a black conservative didn't breach Twitter's community standards or lack thereof. The slur was allowed to trend before Twitter finally blocked it. This is nothing new for liberals. We all remember when Senator Scott introduced powerful legislation to reform policing. White liberal socialists took to the Senate floor to punish Senator Scott for not knowing his place.
So what we say on the Democratic side is we cannot waste this historic moment, this singular opportunity. Let's not do something that is a token, half-hearted approach. Excuse me.
Yeah, no wonder you choked on it. Yeah, liberals called Senator Scott a token. Then they used a filibuster that they now say is racist to defeat Senator Scott's reforms. Reforms that included many Democrat elements. The press didn't bat an eyelash at white liberal racism. Senator Scott, though, is used to that kind of bigotry.
Nowhere do we need common ground more desperately than in our discussions of race. I have experienced the pain of discrimination. I know what it feels like to be pulled over for no reason, to be followed around the store while I'm shopping. I remember every morning at the kitchen table, my grandfather would open the newspaper and read it, I thought. But later I realized he had never learned to read it. He just wanted to set the right example. I've also experienced a different kind of intolerance. I get called Uncle Tom and the N-word by progressives, by liberals. Just last week, a national newspaper suggested my family's poverty was actually privilege because a relative owned land generations before my time. Believe me, I know firsthand, our healing is not finished.
That's how white liberals punish black and brown conservatives who wander off the liberal plantation. I, too, have been called racist slurs by intolerant liberals. They call me a coconut, brown on the outside, white on the inside. Because I revere the Constitution, support the rule of law, worship God Almighty, support liberty and freedom and prosperity, and the right to defend myself and my family, left-wingers seek to deny me and guys like Senator Tim Scott our heritage by calling us white. And they call conservatives racists? My friends, the truth is that socialist Democrats cry racism where it doesn't exist as a mechanism to advance their cancerous ideology of collectivism. And when real liberal racism rears its ugly head, the left-wing press and spin doctors excuse it away, just like they did with Biden on the campaign trail in the last election. Liberals have been yelling at the top of their lungs about systemic racism for years. Now, many of us wondered, what the hell are they talking about? Now we know. They weren't looking at America and crying, systemic racism. They were looking in the mirror.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.